A very good evening to all of you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to yet another virtual learning session. Today we are we are starting at a bit of a different time, but we are hoping to get into a more detailed discussion into economic systems. Economic systems, we got an introduction last session. We understood economic systems are institutional, social mechanism, right? The word systems, we said, comes from the biological science. So system is a combination of different components working together for a certain purpose or a certain function. And so we say economic systems. An economic system, economics is a social science. So an economic system is all about the society. So if we are talking about a system, Puta, there has to be different components in a system. So in the economic system, those components are called the institutions. There are different institutions. And last week, if you guys remember, I explained economic systems. I explained the word systems because it's from the biological sciences. I said the example we used was, we said the human body is a combination of several different systems working together so that we can be this advanced species of mammals, right? So within our body, similar to within our body, we having several systems, each system having different components that are together, and each of the systems in our body, right? Whether it's our respiratory system, whether it's our cardiovascular system, whether it's our digestive system, central nervous system, all the systems in our body have certain components that are connected, and each system has a purpose, has a function. Similarly, an economic system is not a biological system, but it is a social system. And like biological systems has different components, like our different systems in our body, economic systems have what we call institutions. So an economic system is a social and institutional mechanism. Now, I said every system has a purpose. The mechanism is that the economic system has a mechanism. The purpose of that mechanism, a certain method, right? The purpose of that mechanism is, in an economic system, to allocate our scarce resources and solve our basic economic problems. To solve our basic economic problems. Get it? So we defined an economic system. So with this, I will go into the slides, right? So we defined an economic system by saying, right. We defined an economic system by saying it is a social and institutional mechanism or organization, we can say, arrangement, we can say, instead of the word mechanism, created for the purpose of allocating our scarce resources and solving our basic economic problems. Solving our basic economic problems. Is that clear? So this is the purpose, functionality of an economic system. This is what an economic system is all about. Then we said, we gave an alternative definition also, and then we moved on to our understanding that every economic system, these institutions that are within an economic system, they always function within what we call a certain framework. So here, the word we used was a certain framework. This framework, right? This framework, like what you guys see me in, a frame is there. Within this framework, the institutions come together, create a mechanism, and allocate resources and solve basic economic problems. Solve basic economic problems. Now, that framework consists of three main, we can say, institutional features are there. Three main things are there. What are these three things? First, there is always, number one, there is always a legal structure. A legal structure. Every country, every economic system has a certain legal structure within which the different institutions operate, work. Then each economic system, every economic system in the world has what we call a certain, incentive structure. What motivates us? So I'll call this number 2, incentive structure. There is a certain set of incentives, things that motivate us to make decisions, become active, give responses. Okay, so how an economic system operates is based on a certain set of incentives are there. So that's one part of that framework. And thirdly, there is a structure of, right? There are 3 things we bring together. There's a structure of traditions, customs, and cultural elements, or cultural, we can say, values. So there's a structure of traditions, cultural elements, customs. So these 3 things, so this is the third thing. These 3 things together, right? These 3 things together create what we call a framework. Within that framework, there are institutions that operate, interact with each other in a certain organized mechanism with a certain arrangement to allocate our resources and solve our basic economic problems. Now, last week when we wrote the definition, we did mention these basic economic problems. So what are these basic economic problems an economic system is attempting to solve? Anyone who was absent last week, there was a certain mistake from our side. The recording was not made available. So this week we will definitely make last week's and today's recording available. So what you guys need to do is, if there is any bit of a, we'll say, there's a bit of a confusion, if you're a bit unclear as to what's going on today when we are talking about economic systems, then please make sure, right, you follow a certain small thing you can do, right? If you are joining newly, or if you were absent last week, let me repeat, if you are joining these classes newly, or if you were absent, right, to start learning economics. Now, there are certain things we have already covered. That's true. We will have a plan. By January, we will have a special program to help all of you guys who has missed the first 2 chapters, right, of Unit 1. We will cover them. We will do a special program in January, right? So let's wait a bit and let's see how the numbers build up, and then definitely in January we'll have a special program. For now, you need to continue your learning, because if you wait till January, then you're missing even more. Okay, so and I think it's a really good place for you to join the process of learning economics or this subject, because we are starting a new chapter. We are in the beginning of a new chapter, which is economic systems, right? Anyone who has joined today or missed the class last week, right? This is what you do. This is the plan. By tomorrow, right? By tomorrow, tomorrow midday or tomorrow evening, I will make sure my technical coordinator has uploaded last week's video of the session, right? Live session we recorded. So the video, which will be the first session for economic systems, the new chapter. And also we will upload today's recorded version, what we are doing now. So what you do is simple plan. Before next Friday, watch the first session recording for economic systems, right? That will be 1.22, Unit 1, Part 22. Watch that. And then after that, even though you are in the session live today, still, please make sure you watch today's session, the recording. That is 1.23, I think we will label it. So then watch 1.22 and 1.23, both in that order, and make sure you're fully updated when you sit for the session next week. I think without any major problem, you guys can, even if you're a new student or if you are an existing student who missed last week's introduction for economic systems, the 3rd chapter, you can still learn everything from the beginning. I hope the plan is clear. Okay, so let's work on that plan and get this done. Right. Every economic system is trying to solve 3 basic economic problems. We learned this last week. What are these 3 problems? Basically, remember, if you want to solve a problem, you need to make a decision. Without making decision, you cannot solve economic problems. If you want to solve economic problems or any problem for that matter, it requires decision making. So whenever we learn about an economic problem, we need to also understand what kind of a decision we have to make. So the first problem is what we call what to produce in what quantity, which is known as the allocation problem. We have a certain amount of scarce resources. We are trying to decide on what are we going to allocate these resources. Using these scarce resources, limited resources, we are trying to decide what goods and services are we going to produce, because we cannot produce all different types of goods and services because we only have a limited amount of resources. So with the limited resources we have, looking at our society, looking at our needs, we have to decide what to produce. So what to produce is a basic economic problem every country in the world has to face. In solving this problem, the decision we have to make is called the production decision. The decision is called the production decision. Then we have, so I'll also quickly use, can anyone tell me what was the analogy, what was this example we used when we talked about these three problems? We used a certain example and I explained the three problems, right? Can anyone remember what was the example we used? Yes? Good, I'm getting a response. Yes, very good, Deepthi. There we go. Yes, we use the analogy of saying that every country has to make a cake. Every country has to bake a cake, right? So I use that analogy to make it easier for you guys to understand and remember. See, there are different kinds of cakes, but we don't have enough of the ingredients to make all the types of cakes, meaning we have scarce resources, but there are different types of cakes we can make. So first thing is we have to decide with the limited resources, or according to our example, the ingredients we have, what kind of a cake are we going to make? Are we going to make a basic cake, that is, I think, a butter cake, if I'm correct, or are we going to make a very rich, cake with all the, fruits and dried stuff and nuts and whatever, not and everything? Are we going to make a very rich cake? Are we going to make a multi-layered cake? Are we going to make a cake individually for everyone, cupcakes, whatever, right? So we can't make all the types. We have to decide what kind of a cake we are going to make. That is a problem of what to produce. Okay, that needs a production decision. Secondly, our analogy continues. Now we have decided what kind of a cake to make, what to produce, what kind of goods and services. Then we have to decide how to make this cake. You can make a cake by mixing all the ingredients. You can mix them manually by hand. You can take a whisk or whatever it is called, and you can mix everything and make a cake. That is one option. That is where you use more labor. We call this labor intensive production. So how to make the cake, how to produce. Second option is we can mix everything using a cake mixture or a machine, right? Using capital, using machinery equipment, we can do things, we can produce. So manual labor or machinery equipment. If you use more labor, that's called labor intensive. If you use more capital, machinery equipments, technology, that's called capital intensive. So those are the choices. So we have decided what kind of a cake to make. Now we have to decide how to make the cake, how to produce, which is a production problem, And the decision is called choice of techniques decision. Choice of techniques decision. What is the technique? What is the method we are going to use? Are we going to use more labor or more capital? Right. Now we have decided what kind of a cake to produce. We have decided how to produce the cake. Thirdly, once the cake is produced, once the cake is made, we have to decide who gets how much of the cake. How do we cut the cake? What is going to be the size of a slice of cake, piece of cake? How are we going to distribute? So whom to produce is a what problem? Distribution problem. Simply said, how are we going to cut and divide the cake and give it to people? Distribution. In other words, who gets how much of the country's output? Distribution problem, which requires a distribution decision. Okay, now I want most of you guys, if not ideally all of you guys, to respond. Are we okay? First problem, what to produce, what kind of a cake to make. Every country has to decide because we have scarce resources. Second problem, how to make the cake. What is the method of production, technique of production. Third problem, whom to produce. How are we going to distribute the cake? How are we going to distribute the output? Are we 100% clear? Yes, I want all of you guys, if possible, to respond. Then I know you are with me. And something is, going into your God-given multifunctional brain, which the economic side of the brain we are trying to use now. Yeah, logical side. Right. All of you, quickly. Good. Excellent. Most of you guys are responding. Just say yes or no, Buddha. If you understood what I said about the cake and the problems, then say yes. If you are okay. Right? If not, definitely you can ask me. You can question anything. You can clarify anything. Did all of you respond? There we go. Right. That's the spirit. Then I am also confident that you guys are with me and we can have a very interactive, productive session. Right? Okay, good. So that's that. Now we know what an economic system is. We know an economic system is all about bringing certain institutions together, creating a mechanism. Economic systems are created by society. Purpose of an economic system is to use our scarce resources and solve these three problems. Solve these three problems. Right. Okay. Then we always say, Nobutta, an economic system is an institutional framework. So we have to institutional structure. So we have to be clear on that. We did this last week, so I'll do this very quickly. If we go to the study material, right? Now, anyone who has joined recently, if you do not have the study material up to now, what you can do is, Buddha, get in touch with the coordinator, right? And make sure you have made the payment or whatever it is. He will ask for an order number, something like that, right? And please get in touch with the coordinator. Students who have been in the class, please give me a few seconds. I'll quickly say this to your friends who have joined newly, if there's anyone, right, who wants to be clear on this. So what you do is you call the admin or the admin coordinator, right? Use this number, not 777-277-729, right? Not 777-277-729. This is also our WhatsApp number as well, right? Drop a message or give a call, give your details, right? He might ask you for something called an order number. Then, Putta, you can either visit the MindHub admin office in Colombo 6. You or someone you know can visit and collect the, right? I've got a message from the coordinator. There is someone in the waiting room. Did I admit you, Putta? The student who joined now, is that okay? Are you here? Just drop me a message. Say any of your friends in the waiting room? No. Right, I don't see anyone here. Right. Ah, yes, okay. Sorry for keeping you there, Buddha. Right, okay. So just give a call, give your information. You or someone you know with that information, if you have made the payment with the order number, I think we need, you can quickly go and collect the material. Hard copy you need to have, right? We write notes. So you go and collect the material, or you can talk to the coordinator and get it couriered. Then we will dispatch it, or we will put it to the courier, give it to the courier service soon as possible. So moment you have made the payment, Buddha, just get that sorted. If you have any problems there, talk to me after the class, right? I'll be there for a few minutes. Hopefully the power will be there, right? Just let me know, okay? Then I can also help you, but mainly get in touch with the coordinator. The most important thing is, if you have joined now, be determined, be very focused to keep participating for the classes with the whatever you have missed in January. We'll look into it, look into that. We will cover that. For now, really concentrate and learn from now onwards, from the chapter 3 onwards, learn everything. Right. So in your study material, page number 42, we have a very important table that we have completed, right? Now, I want anyone who is able to try and, give me answers. If you can unmute the microphone and answer, that's even better, right? If you have the study material at home, you were there last week, Putta. If you can quickly close it for a moment, yeah. Just close it for a moment and try to recall this. It will be really good. Okay. Right. So let's get this done. Okay. We have completed this last week, but I just want to quickly recall because it's important. An economic system is all about basically the institutions, all about the institutions, right? So there are 6 institutions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we see within every economic system. What are these 6 institutions? Can you guys recall? If anyone can unmute the microphone and answer, brilliant. What are these 6 institutions? Okay. Yeah, but there is a small disturbance. So I can't hear you clearly. But I appreciate you answering. Shall we see if there is something we can do to improve the audio quality? Okay, right. Households. I can vaguely make what you are saying. Very good. Households. Yep, very good. Enterprises. Government. Brilliant.
Labor.
Yes, but shall we give someone else also? Yes, can contribute. Yes. Government then. Go
Labor.
on. Labor organizations. Very good. So I'll write that here. Right. Labor organizations. Good. What is number 4? I'm getting a message as well. Yes, labor institutions, labor organizations will say. Markets. Yes. Yes. Right. Markets. Very good. Very important institution. Right. Markets. Very good. I'm happy to see that most of you guys are trying to contribute. Anyone else? Last one.
Non-government organization.
There we go. NGOs. Non-government organization. So these are the standard 6 institutions with you find, these are the components. Standard 6 institutions you find within any economic system of the world. America to capitalism to socialism to market economy to command economy, mixed economy, whatever, right? Apart from a traditional economy, you find these 6 institutions. You need to know them. The moment we say institutions, quickly you need to know the 6. Very simple, right? Then still book closed. Let's keep doing this. Here, there is a certain, this is what we call the framework, right? We talked about this earlier. All these institutions operate within a framework. What is this framework? It's consisting of 3 things. If you can recall, brilliant. What are the 3 things that come into this framework? Yep, I'm getting a good, very good, Deepthi. That's 1. Anyone else can give it right? Okay. We say legal structure. Legal structure is 1 thing. Then let's go. Yep, Deepthi, very good. There we go. Khadija, very good. See, now I'm getting answers. Let me just get this to one side so that I can have a look at it also. Right? Very good. Yes. So anyone else who would like to contribute? One more person? Number 2. Yes, we say incentives structure. Remember, that's how the framework is built. Incentive structure. Sorry about the handwriting. Incentive structure. Yes. And then, Nuha, good. The last one is we have a structure of 3 things. traditions, comma, customs, and cultural elements, or we say values. Traditions, customs, culture. So easy to remember. So these three things are known as what creates the framework. Within that framework, the institutions operate. Done. Then the next part is extremely important, 5 things. Right? Out of these 5 things, 1 and 2, I'll write in red color. Then 3, I'll write in green. And the others, I'll go for maybe blue. That is 4 and 5. The color separation is what is in red is the most important, right? And actually, I'll highlight number 2 because it is the most important thing for your exam. These 5 things are called institutional features, Buddha. These 5 things are what we see in every country in the world, every economic system. But they are based on these 5 things, we can classify. What is the word? Classify, categorize. We can classify or categorize economic systems. Classify or categorize economic systems. Based on these 5 things, we can classify or categorize economic systems. So out of these 5, there are 3 of them, especially 2 of them, especially 1 of them. I'll repeat. Out of these 5 institutional features that we can use to classify, categorize economic systems, to identify how one economic system is different from the other, right? These 5 things are important, but out of the 5, 3 of them are important, more important. Out of the 3, 2 of them are highly important, and 1 of them is extremely important. The extremely important one is highlighted. Okay, right. I'm not going to write the entire thing because I have a slide for it. I can share with you. But can we quickly recall before we go to the slide? Can we quickly do this? Remember, first one was about nature of resource ownership, if you guys remember. Second one was about something called the mechanism of resource allocation. A mechanism, a method of resource allocation. Third one was about incentives. The fourth one was about redistribution of income and social safety networks. A bit long, a bit new for you guys to hear. We'll talk about it. And number 5 was about, right, what your parents talk about a lot these days, I'm sure, politics and ideologies. Politics and ideologies. 5 things, right? Let's go to the slide and let me just quickly run through these one more time because they're so important. First one, we said the nature of resource ownership. Okay, today we will learn more of this. Then we said the nature of resource allocation mechanism. The nature of resource allocation mechanism, right? Sometimes it is also called the nature of decision coordination mechanism or the method of solving basic economic problems. All these things can be used. Then thirdly, okay, we said the nature of incentive. So 1, 2, 3, up to 3, it's very important, right, that we are clear up to 3. And out of that, the first 2 are more important, right, up to number 3, right? And out of that also, the second one is the key. We will realize that as we learn more. Then, Buddha, we have 2 more things. That is the income redistribution, social safety networks, and politics and ideology. Politics and ideology. Okay, right. So now what we're going to do is, right, last week, did I explain, anyone who was there in the last week's class, did I explain basically the evolution of economic systems? How did we get to our modern economic systems? Right? Yes, how we got to our modern economic systems. Did I explain? Anyone? No? Devolution. Yes, I have explained. Brilliant. Right. Then we can directly go to this next part. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Anyone who missed last week's session, will make the recording available by tomorrow somehow. Please make sure you watch it. Okay. Right. Now, basically, um, one of the most tested things in your exam, let me put it that way, one of the most exam relevant, exam important areas, or I can put it to you this way. If someone comes to me, or if one of you guys asks me, sir, in chapter 3, that is economic systems and solving basic economic problems, or in chapter 3, sir, what is the most important thing I should know, or what is the most important page, most important area that I should focus on? What is the base of chapter 3? If that question was asked from me, my answer would be page number 43, this particular table. Right. This particular table, okay, I'll just reduce it a bit so that we can see it. This particular table is what I would say in the entire chapter, the most important thing, right? The most important thing, right? The entire chapter, most important thing. I'm sorry, but I'm constantly having to communicate for two reasons. One is about the, power cut and those things. Secondly is about the, there's a small personal thing I have to handle. I'm sorry. So I might need to on and off just attend to a few messages, but let's keep learning. I'm sorry that I shouldn't be doing that. I do apologize. So the most important thing, most important area for the whole chapter is this table, this chart. The more you understand this, the more you really master this, I think the rest of the unit will become easy, and it's key. Okay, right. So we are going to complete this now. And the way we are going to complete this, you guys can see it here on the screen now. Can you see, Puta, the main headings that are given? The main headings that are given? Yes, the main headings given are basically about, right? The main headings given are basically about, okay, the first three institutional features. The first three institutional features: ownership of resources, mechanism of resource allocation, and the nature of incentive structure, right? Nature of incentive structure. We completed this last week. Yes. Is it correct? We completed this last week. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Fine. Okay. So these three main institutional features are what we use. So as I said, we need to be very clear with this, right? So last week, did I explain this, or did I want to explain it this week? Because in the physical classes, we did this on the second session. That's why. For you guys, last week was the first session. Yes. Okay. Some of you all are going in and out of the session, maybe because of connectivity issue. Right. Excellent. So can I quickly make sure that we are okay? Right. Just give me a minute, Buddha. Okay. Okay. Right. So last week was not your, last week was not the first session for economic systems. It was second session then. Ah, right. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry about that, because in the physical classes, I try to keep the physical and the virtual classes parallel much as possible. In the physical classes, last time was the second session. Okay. So that should be the reason why this a bit of a mix-up is there, right? Okay, from my side. Okay, but anyway, so can we do this? We'll quickly go through this table, because even for today's session, Buddha, I have to start in page 44 with these institutional features. Am I correct? Nature of institutional structural features. We have to, yes, we have to start there, right? Okay. So I think what we are discussing is relevant for what we are about to start learning. So with that, keeping that in mind, let's look at it. Okay. Right. Now, basically, 5 institutional features. 3 of them are mainly used to classify economic systems. Out of that, right, the most important institutional feature is the mechanism of resource allocation. Right. Now, let's do a quick exercise. You need to help me here. You need to give me the confidence that you guys are really good with this. Anyone who was there last week's session needs to do this really well now. Okay. Again, if you can close your tute a bit, close your material a bit, right? And take a deep breath and answer my questions. Okay. Right. So I'll just go to this part. Right. Okay. Right. Let's quickly do this because it's very important. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, my intelligent students, give it your best. Attempt to recall this and do this. Right. Ownership of resources. Based on ownership of resources, when we say resources, Buddha, we mainly talk about, remember, property resources, land and capital. Based on which party out of the private sector and the public sector of a country owns resources, right? Based on which party owns resources in a country, we can decide the economic system. But there are certain words we use. Can you tell me if resource ownership is, meaning property resources are mainly owned and controlled by the private sector, what kind of an economic system are we talking about? If resources are mainly owned and controlled by the private sector, what kind of an economic system are we mainly talking about? Very good. I'm getting some answers. Let me quickly comment. Yes. Shira, Deepti, Akila, Sheikhla. Yes, most of the answers, Nuha, most of the answers I'm getting are correct. You are using the right term, right? That is what I want to see, right? Excellent. So, Bata, if in a country, land and capital is mostly or mainly owned by the private sector, controlled by the private sector, property rights are with the private sector, then we are talking about a capitalist or liberal economic system. Capitalist or liberal economic system. Capitalist or liberal economic system. Okay, capitalist or liberal economic system. Right? Then what is the opposite of this? What is the opposite of a capitalist or liberal economic system? The opposite of a capitalist or liberal economic system. Very good. There we go. I'm getting the answers very quickly. Brilliant. Socialist. socialist or communist. There we go. Very good. Communist economic system. Socialist or communist. Then what's the difference? Yes. What's the difference between a capitalist or a socialist economic system? The difference is, right? The difference is the ownership of resources. In a capitalist system, resource ownership is mainly with the private sector. Land and capital is owned, controlled, property rights are with the private sector. Socialist system, they are with the government, public sector. Is that clear? Last week, I gave some examples for you guys. And I think we can use a very simple example, that is, Puta, we can talk about, no? Yes? The two Koreas. North Korea is a communist country, almost a P-U-R-E, 100% communist country, North Korea. Then we have South Korea, which is a capitalist country. Just that 13th parallel, the dividing line is there. North is communist, South is capitalist. You can see the contrast very clearly there. Right. Then we come to the most capitalist, the symbol of capitalism we say is countries like USA. USA is one of the most capitalist countries in the world, and North Korea, Cuba are highly socialist driven countries. Then you can have countries like China, Russia are socialist driven, whereas USA, UK, Canada, right? These kinds of countries. Then South Korea, Japan, Australia, these are capitalist driven countries, right? There are other examples, right? But that's how we looked at it. Then can you quickly tell me, based on mechanism of resource allocation? Based on mechanism of resource allocation, right? Based on mechanism of resource allocation, how do we categorize countries? There we go. I'm getting some answers. Brilliant. Yes. One, we say that if the method of solving basic economic problems is mainly based on traditions and, generational things, right? A cultural framework, a traditional framework, we say traditional economic system. If the mechanism of resource allocation is based on the market or the price mechanism, we say market economic system, right? But remember, when we say economic system, you have to say market economic system. The mechanism is price mechanism. The method is price mechanism. The economic system is called market economic system. Then we have, if we use planning mechanism, plans, short-term, medium-term, long-term economic plans, and solve basic economic problems, that's called command or centrally planned economic system. We have command economic system, which is central planning. Then we have something called indicative planning also, indicative planning as well, right? Then we have mixed economic systems. So what are these mixed economic systems we see in the world? When it comes to mixed economic system, what is this mix? What is this mix about? Okay, this mixed is about, right? A mixed economic system. The mix is about what? The mix is about mainly the mechanisms. Most of the time we see countries are mixed economies. Sri Lanka is a mixed economic system. Most countries in the world, apart from countries like North Korea and maybe a country like Cuba today, right? I would say those are very few exceptions. Most of the other countries are mixed economies. What is the mix? It's the mechanism of resource allocation that is mainly mixed, right? So a country is mostly a market-based economy, but there is a government, and government also gets involved in resource allocation. Or a country is mostly a command-based economy, like China, but they allow the private sector, the market also to allocate resources. Those kind of a mix. If not, we have indicative planning that we will learn later on, but that is also mixed method. Not that theoretically we can talk about it, but practically, this capitalism, socialism mixing is of course a bit of a difficult thing to do, because capitalism, socialism are these very strong ideologies we have. They don't really mix that much, but theoretically we can talk about it. There are some few examples. We can look at countries where there is kind of a capitalist, socialist, both mix is there. But normally the mix is the mechanisms. Okay, we wrote three things here, if you guys remember. We said socialist market economy, countries like China, social market economy, right? Countries that are more like Sri Lanka is trying to become a social market economy, but today in the world, most successful social market economies are countries like the Scandinavian countries, Nordic countries like Norway, Switzerland, Denmark. These are social market economy. Germany is a good example of a social market economy, right? New Zealand is also an example of a social market economy, right? That's what we are trying to be. At the moment, we are more of a socialist market economy, right? And then indicative planning. Can we do this, right? And then, okay, we'll finish this. Incentive based, there are three incentives we will learn today. I don't think I explained the incentives last week. Did I explain incentives last week? Yes or no? I don't think I explained incentives last week. No, okay, I'll explain them today. But before we get to the incentives, we'll quickly look at, based on incentives, how we categorize market structures. So if the main or the more powerful incentive is, right? Yes. Shehla, I see your question. I'll explain it in a bit, Putta. Just give me a minute. If the most powerful incentive is material incentive, material incentive is the most powerful incentive, that's what we call a market economic system. If the more powerful incentive is coercive incentive, coercive, forced incentive, coercive incentive, then we are looking at a command economic system. Coercive incentive, then we are looking at a command economic system, a command economic system. Are we clear? Command economic system. So it's a mix of the two, coercive and coercive and material are the two main incentives we use, right? Then moral incentive, there's something called moral incentives, but Putta, it's impossible to categorize economies, countries based on that and say, based on moral incentives or ethical incentives and say, this is a market economy, this is a command economy, because we can't say only people living in a market economy have more patriotic beliefs and more moral incentives than a command. You can't say that way. So it's a bit difficult to classify economic systems based on the moral incentives. So we use only material and coercive, right? I will now try to explain to you guys, after quickly writing those things as a recap. We'll writing the 5 institutional features. I'll talk about incentives. Before that, there's a question asked from one of your classmates. So let me answer that question quickly. Sir, what is the difference between socialist market economy and social market economy? Putta, we will separately learn these. They are in the THO. Okay. But for now, the basic idea is this. A socialist market economy. I said the example is a country like China. China is fundamentally a socialist country. In China, the more dominant party, the more control, command of the economy is with the government. Right? China is a socialist country. If you go to China and say, China is now a capitalist country, they will be very annoyed with you. They might even arrest you for that. Okay, China is a socialist country. But the government of China over the last 20 years, we say China had something called an iron curtain, not an actual thing, but it's a metaphorical, the certain way we say iron curtain, right? So China was having a curtain like this, and they were closed from the world. No one knew actually what is going on in China because they don't have any dealing with the world about 25 years back. But then 25 years ago or 25 years ago, China decided to bit by bit open this iron curtain, right? Put their head out and world, right? The world saw China, China saw the world, and bit by bit, China started dealing with the world. So China became an emerging economy. What economy? Emerging economy. They emerged out to the world. And as they were doing that, they realized they can't be this fully socialist country and expect the other countries in the world, other businesses in the world to deal with them. Now, today, if you go to China, you will find some of the main symbols of capitalism. Now, all of you guys have heard of a company or of a brand called McDonald's. Say yes or no. Have all of you heard something called McDonald's? Right. Okay. Right. Who hasn't? Coca-Cola? My God, yes. Right. So these are the McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, right? These are huge symbols of capitalism. They are American companies. They are symbols of capitalism. Remember I said the most capitalist country is America. So today when you go to China, Beijing, Shanghai, all of their main cities, right? Even their province that became very popular, Wuhan and all that, right? If you go to China today, in all of their major cities, you will find McDonald's restaurants. You will find Coca-Cola. You will find the other symbols of capitalism, businesses, everything you will find. Got it? Why? Because China is no longer that country with the Iron Curtain and 100% fully socialist country. No, they are opening up. So they are allowing the market to come in. They are allowing the world to come in. So China is a socialist. Socialist part is very strong. Market economy. Then what are the examples I gave for countries that are social market economies? I said Sri Lanka is trying to become one. What are the examples of social market economies? Social market economies. I said countries like the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Switzerland, Denmark, these countries, Germany. Now, these countries, Putta, yes, very good. Germany, those kinds of countries. These countries, you go to these countries and say, you guys are socialist country, they will be annoyed. They will be angry with you. They will not like that. These countries are mostly capitalist countries, but they are focused a lot on certain things like social equity, social justice. They believe everyone living in their country should have a certain decent living standard. If anyone is unable to achieve that, they are giving welfare to them. They are protecting their people. They are maintaining human rights, civil rights, cultural rights, religious rights of people. So even though they are a capitalist country, but the governments in these countries, social market economies, are acting like governments in a socialist country. They are trying to make sure that private freedom is controlled a bit and everyone is given an equal opportunity in their country. That's why today we say the United Nations Organization prepares something called the HDI, Human Development Index. That's the main index in the world, Buddha. If you want to know what is the best country in the world to live in, what is the country where the living standards are the highest in the world, what is the best country in the world to live in, you look at the Human Development Index of the United Nations Organization. They publish it every year, right? We have to learn about it in Unit 12, Unit 11, right? So you can look at the HDI. And one thing you will see is out of the 180 countries they rank in this HDI index, top countries are always, they have something in common. What is that? All the top countries are social market economies. That's why I'm saying it's a very successful modern system? Economic system. It comes under mixed economic system. I hope you guys got the idea. Okay, right. There's a note and everything. We'll talk about it also briefly later on. Right. Before we talk incentives, since we were here, I quickly want to ask you, anyone who has the study material can go to page 51, please. 51. where you have this special note, mixed mechanism, page 51. Are you there? Can you guys tell me if you're there, please?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Good. So there you guys will find, right? Right. You guys will find. Right. Okay. You guys will find the different ways mixed economic systems can be created. I've given some illustrations. So one method is based on resource allocation mechanism. I believe, right, if you can just highlight this, this is the main method of how we can have mixed economic systems, right? Resource allocation mechanism. Highlight beautifully than me, what I did, right? So where you can have pure command economies, pure market economies are possible, but more common is the mixed economic model where you have large market and non-market sector. Non-market meaning the government sector. Both are there, market and the government sector, both get involved, and markets are mainly used to allocate resources. Price mechanism is mainly there, but government also gets involved, right? I explained that earlier. Now, social market economy, can you see, Buddha? Social market economy falls here more towards market side, not the command side, more towards the market side, but mixed economy. Okay, mixed economy. Then we have command economies with some household choice. That is also there now. I would say countries like China and countries like Russia, right? Few other more socialist-based countries, they fall under this category. Command economies with some household choice, right? Even Sri Lanka at the moment can be somewhere between, I would say, if I am to mark Sri Lanka, I would say we are more here, right? We are a social market economy, socialist market economy at the moment, and we are trying to become a social market economy. We are trying to become a social market economy. Okay, right. Then based on ownership of property resources, how do we categorize? I said it's not a very practical thing, but how do we categorize? Based on ownership of property resources, how do we categorize? Based on ownership of property resources, we mainly look for right. Socialist, capitalist are the two extremes, but the mixed mechanism is there, containing large private and public sector. So there's a large private sector, large public sector, both are there. But even these kinds of mixed economies will always ask, if you ask them the question, are you socialist or capitalist? They will always pick a side, because you cannot be both. Ideology is too strong there. Get what I'm saying? It's like oil and water. Remember, I said that last week also, I'm sure. They don't mix. So countries either socialist. Now Sri Lanka is a mixed economy, yes. But end of the day, they are a socialist country. No? We are the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. It's in our name. We are a socialist country. India is a socialist country. Get it? But we call ourselves mixed economies also. So it's not that practical to say that based on resource ownership that mix, we can 100%, we don't see it. So mechanism of resource allocation is the way to have a mixed economic system. Then there is very, very advanced economic systems can be there. In the 2015 advanced level paper, this was tested once, only once up to now. So I'll give you a basic idea, but I wouldn't want you to go too much in detail, right? But normally what we say is with the capitalist countries go with market economic system as the mechanism. Socialist countries go with the planned economic system, planning mechanism. Capitalist countries are market economic systems using the price mechanism, right? So the normal trend we see in the world is capitalist. Then they use their market economic systems, And the mechanism they use is the price mechanism, right? Price mechanism. Planning is also with a P, no? Right? Price mechanism. Okay, I'll say price mechanism, right? Then the normal trend we see is socialist countries, they use, or they are mostly command-based economies, and they prefer to use the planning mechanism. Get it? This is what we generally see in the world. But, so the 2015 question was that, are capitalist economies necessarily market economies and socialist economies necessarily command economies? So the question was asking, can't those things mix? Answer, yes, they can mix. Generally, this is the situation. Capitalist countries prefer market system. Well, the market system is where you can make your own decisions. Freedom is there. Socialist countries prefer the command system. Okay, central system. Okay, but can there be other systems where these things can mix up? Yes, look at this matrix or look at this table. What do you see? Here, you guys can see, right? On this side, we have ownership of resources. Here we have mechanism of resource allocation, right? Look at this public resource ownership, government resource ownership, right? Public meaning government, government resource ownership, planning mechanism. This is the very common thing we see. Socialist planned economy, no problem. What we said earlier is there. Then come to this corner. Private sector resource ownership, market mechanism misuse. This is again very common. Market capitalism, capitalist countries using the market system, no problem. That's perfectly okay. Right? No problem. That's perfectly okay. Right? Then, okay. Okay, someone has entered again. Right. Then we have this new, not new, but very advanced mixed economies are there. Public sector resource ownership, but the public sector uses the market system. Market socialism. Market socialism. Kind of China, but not also. So it's difficult to give practical examples, but possible. Then we have dirigism. Dirigism is where we have private sector owns the resources, but they use the planning mechanism. Very difficult to achieve, but can technically can. That is called command capitalism. Command capitalism. This is also possible. Very advanced mixed economic methods. Right? Okay. Any questions on that you guys can ask? If not, we come back to okay, page number 44. We come back to page 44. What I want you guys to do is, as a quick exercise, write the 5 institutional features. Okay, if you remember them, start writing the 5 institutional features, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if possible, number 2, write in a special color. Number 2, write in a special color. Okay. I'll share this on the screen also. Right. These are the 5 things I want to write ASAP. Right, done. Okay, now, as you guys know, there are three types of incentives that we mainly talk about. Okay, so this part we did, so let's skip through this. Right, before we talk about the characteristics. Anyway, it's printed and given, so I haven't taken it into the slides. Right, let's go to the tute. Now, there are three types of incentives that we need to learn about. So what are incentives? Incentives are things that influence our decision. Or a simple way, I would say incentives are why we do what we do. Why we do what we do. Got it? That's incentives. So everything we do in life, every decision we make as citizens of a country, as consumers, as employees, as students, you guys, right? As human beings, but every decision we make, everything we do, there's something behind that decision, some kind of a motivation, something that is pushing us, encouraging us to do that. And certain things, there are things that discourage us from doing those things as well. So those are called things that encourage and discourage us to behave the way we behave, make the decisions we make, act the way we act, respond the way we respond, are called incentives. Okay, incentives. We believe such incentives are always things that are favorable, that encourage behavior favorable for the society and discourage behavior unfavorable for the society, because these incentives are created by the society itself. These things are created by the society itself. And there are three types of incentives you will find in any economic systems. In some economic systems, one type can be more dominant or strong than the other. Accordingly, we categorize the economic systems. So the main economic system, the main economic system, right? The main economic system that we have to work with. So the main incentives we have to work with are three types: material, coercive, and moral. You can see them there. I'll take you guys as an example and explain this. Of course, if you were coming for physical classes, this would be more relatable, but still I think it's relatable. Can I quickly see, right? It's almost 5 o'clock. So can I quickly ask all of you to show me that you're in the session, you're with me, by simply, yes, quickly posting a, either, hands up message, but, thumbs up message, something like that, or just say, yes, sir. All of you, very quickly, I need to see this now. Right? Good. All of you need to respond in some way. Right. Only then my example will work. Have all of you responded? Sure. Yes. Right. Okay. Good. Excellent. Right. Now, so why on a Friday afternoon, especially on a day like today, when you guys didn't have school also, if you're going to school, if your schools have started, that is, you don't have school as well. So why are you devoting this 2 hours or 1 hour and 1.5 hours or whatever it is, and sitting down for this lecture and listening to me explain these things, writing notes, putting this effort? Why is it? Remember, incentives are things that motivate us to do things we do know. So what is the reason? Some of you could be doing this. If I ask you, some of you will tell me, sir, I have a lot of things I want to achieve with my life in the future. I have a plan for myself. I want to get qualified. I want to get into this kind of a company, or I want to do this kind of a job. I want to have this kind of a position. I want to have this kind of a designation. Someday, sir, my visiting card should say this. Sir, I want to have good things in life. I want to buy certain things of my own. I want to have this kind of a car. I want to live in this kind of a house. Get it? I want to travel the world, see things. I want income security, stability. Get it? I want to experience new things in life, go to different places, eat, restaurants, and, experience things. I want to live a high quality of life. So, sir, to achieve all that, my starting point is I have to do my A-levels well. I have to get good results in my A-levels. I have to set a good foundation, then I can do all that, sir. So my motivation is all those goods and services, that living standard I want to someday achieve in the future. Okay. So every Friday, whatever the time the class is, right? I'm sorry for changing the time on and off because of the, we all live in Sri Lanka, why, right? So, sir, every Friday, I make it a point to sacrifice whatever it is. I'm motivated, sir, to sit down, get ready, set up everything, right? Remove the distractions, right? And take the notes, everything, sir. And really listen to what you're saying, concentrate, even though it's a virtual class, sir, even though you don't see me, sir, I will always concentrate because I have things to achieve. I have different goods and services I want to achieve in my life, a living standard I want to achieve in my future life. So if that is your motivation, Buddha, if self-interest, self-growth, self-achievement, if you're a business, then profits. You're not a business, but get it? If you're a business, if you're motivated by profits, then you are looking at material incentives. What incentives? Material incentives. Is that clear? Get the idea? That is what material incentives are. Yes? Right. So where it says material incentives, you guys can write within brackets words like self-interest. Okay? High living standard. Self-interest, high living standard, profits. These are the common things you will see that are motivating a person if they are material incentive driven, if they are focused on material incentives. So I'll repeat within brackets in front of material incentives, you guys can write self-interest, high quality of life, profits. Get it? Profits. Those are the things. Some benefit for you. And if you think this is what I have to do to achieve that benefit, achieve that lifestyle or that quality of life, you work for it. That is your motivation. That is your incentive, material. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. That is what builds sometimes ambitiousness in us. How we become ambitious. Then, Buddha, we have, okay? Right. Then, some of you guys who might be still there. I don't think I have any students like this, but I'm just saying as an example, there might be students who sit for a virtual class, online class, because there are two people at home, at least one person at home, who will remind them. Now, today we started the class at 3:30. We'll say normally we start at 4. There will be someone at home who will at about 3:45, who will come to you and say, "Hatarata panti, online class එක." Get it? And sometimes when you don't take any action, when you don't react to that, they will come and, if possible, they will drag you, plant you on a chair, right? If possible, focus your head like this, keep the device and say, "Yanda, link ekata, log when." Get what I'm saying? Go to the class, right? Then they will say, where is your book? Then you will go, I don't know what book, right? Then they will come and maybe they will hopefully not do that, but give you the book and say, okay, here, keep it in front of you, right? And here, don't you have a pen? No, I don't know where my pen is, right? Then they will bring you the pen. You know who I'm talking about, yes, right? Not the neighbors, no. Your parents will do this. Mothers will do this sometimes. They will plant the child in front of the thing and get them to focus. Sometimes it's possible, if the child goes, they will hold their head also like this, impossible, right? And they will say, then sometimes what happens is the mother or father, they will make a cup of tea or whatever it is, and they are also sitting in a place where they can see you, you can see them, you look at them and you look at the screen, you look at them, you look at the screen. Now, why are you doing this? Because you're coerced, you're forced to do this. That is the only incentive. The incentive is this. The motivation there is this. If you don't sit and pretend like you're participating in the session, there is a punishment. Your parents will get annoyed. They will have a punishment. They will say, if you don't do this, if you don't sit for the class and at least listen to what the teacher is saying, right? No dinner. I think no dinner, you guys are not going to be affected by that. No, when we were small, when we were not obedient or following the rules at home, they will say, okay, no dinner. No, if we pass the curfew, we go out to play. There was something called going out and playing. Have you heard of it? Right. Okay. When we go out to play, we have a curfew. By 6 o'clock, you have to get into the house, 6 p.m. So we sometimes get 6:15, 6:30. We come and slowly get into the house. We get caught. Then they say, no, we told you 6 o'clock, you are 6:30. Some punishment is there always. If you don't do the homework, some punishment is there, right? So punishment for us was no dinner or, no television for 2 days, something like that. It was devastating for us, right? But for you guys, I don't think those have an impact. Maybe your parents can say, no Wi-Fi, or they will take your smartphone away for 1 or 2 days. Most probably you will die, right? Or they will say no data. Get what I'm saying? If they say, okay, no Wi-Fi, you will say, no problem, Wi-Fi data, right? They will say, they will take they will remove the Wi-Fi thing and go, thinking that they are giving you a punishment. You also pretend like you're affected by, you don't, like someone died, you cry over the Wi-Fi. But the data is there. Then your parents become smart. They also become smart. Parenting has to be smart now. Your parents become smart and say, no Wi-Fi, no data also. Or no phone for 2 days, for 3 days, for 1 week, finished. You will be in the ICU, I am sure. Right? So, Buddha, you're afraid of that punishment. No? When you're afraid of that punishment, or you have told your parents, you have come to a deal with your parents, okay, next week I'm going to go out with my friends and watch a movie or something. These days don't go, the air quality is not good. Next week I'm going to go out with my parents, with my friends and watch a movie. Your parents have given a tentative permission. Tentative permission. Balamu is the word, no? Tentative permission. Then if you don't sit and pretend like you're really concentrating in the class today, during the weekend, they're not going to allow you to go and watch the movie. So that's a punishment. Coerced, forced. I don't think any of you guys are sitting for these sessions that way. Say no? No. All of you are sitting either based on the first thing, material incentives, not coercive. Okay? Right. If your parents are listening, they also have to understand you can't force education. Right? Then comes with the moral incentive, ethical incentives. Moral. What is that? You are not that ambitious or not that keen about, getting this done also. You're shaped, okay, a bit interested in your studies. On the other hand, your parents also are not forcing you or planting you on the chair and asking you to participate for the virtual class. Not like that also. They are also very laissez-faire. We learned that word. They are also very hands-off kind of parenting. They are also okay. You're also okay. You also, have a bit of interest. But Buddha, beginning of the month, your parents give you the money or you use your mother's or father's credit debit cards and you make a payment to us. So that your payment is made. So the ethical thing, the moral thing to do is to make use of that payment your parents have made and at least sit for the classes and concentrate as much best as you can. Get what I'm saying? So you're sitting and listening and watching these sessions because it's the right thing to do. That kind of a mentality. It's a right, correct, or the ethical thing to do. If you're motivated by the right thing to do, right? If you make a mistake, if you want to say sorry or if you apologize, right? If you are rude to someone, if you feel guilty about it, then do something about it. Get it? If you see something wrong happening, you want to say something about it. If you're patriotic as a person, if you care for your country, if you care for your fellow citizen, get what I'm saying? Right? If you violate some road rule or something, you have the decency to at least apologize to someone. These things we do because we have something called moral incentives, ethical incentives. Is that clear, Bata? So in your case, if you're sitting down for the class, because you have some interest, but not that much interest, your parents also are not forcing you, but you know it's the right thing to do. At this age, your job is to do this. So I will do it. Right? I prefer if you guys are in the first category, that is your incentive, because that will really drive you to achieve excellence in advanced levels. Got it? Okay. Self-interest doesn't need to be selfish. Get it? Okay. It's not a bad thing. Right. Are we clear on the three incentives? So coercive, Putha, please write within brackets, quickly write. Where it says coercive, within brackets, write. Okay. Rules, regulations, taxes, rules, regulations, taxes, common benefit or common welfare. I'll repeat. Rules, regulations, taxes, common benefit. These are the coercive incentives. You do something not because it's benefiting you, but it's benefiting everyone. You're forced to do it. I'll repeat one more time. Rules, regulations, taxes, common benefit. Because without no one in any country in the world, common benefit. No one in any country in the world pays taxes because they are motivated to pay taxes. No, tax is a law. So you pay. Get it? Right. So that means coercive incentives are there even in market economies. Even in market economies, taxes are there. Rules, regulations are there. But in market economies, material is more powerful, dominant. That's the difference. Okay. Even in a command economy, material incentives are there. But the government has a lot of rules, regulations. So the coercive incentive is more dominant in a command economy. That's how we say it. Right. Moral incentives are basically the ethical or the right thing to do. Yes. Common decency, the right thing to do, ethical behavior, patriotism. I'll repeat again. Moral incentives, right thing to do, right? Common decency, some ethical behavior, patriotism, being a good neighbor. I know you don't have space to write all that. Few of them, if you can write. Okay. Are we okay with them? Incentives. Yeah. We are okay. Right. Okay. If you guys have anything to ask, please ask. Please clarify. Okay. We can do that. Now, what I want you guys to do is, very quickly, Buddha will try to write the characteristics of a market economy. But I need to warn you, there's a possibility. Moral incentive, yes, I can repeat. Okay. Moral incentives. I said right thing to do, common decency, ethical behavior, patriotism, even things like being a good neighbor. Okay. Right. Now, but as I was saying, I will give you the points or the characteristics, but I have to warn you, we might lose electricity. If that happens, with that, I will stop the class, obviously. Until such time, we'll quickly try to write the points. Okay. Right. In case I couldn't say this, anyone who has joined the class newly, so let me go to the slide and say this. Anyone who has joined the class newly, please remember, we will do some work and catch up everything in January. Start writing Buddha. Until such time, okay, the ones in blue color, The last two are printed and given. Until, please start writing. Until such time, just now you have joined the classes. I hope more of your friends will join these classes, at least now since results are out. And Buddha, encourage them to do that and give them the confidence. We'll cover everything that you have missed or that you have missed in January. Until such time, don't wait anymore. Join soon as possible and learn from economic systems or chapter 3. The recorded versions, everything is there. And sir will also help explain things. So give your friends that confidence, Buddha. Get them to join this productive process at least now. Because if they are waiting for a whole new batch or whole new year to start, auspicious time to start, they are missing more and more. So be a good friend and encourage them to do that.